Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. Introduction. Kafka's biography reads almost like a critical analysis of his work, for so much of the neurotic tension of his writing find its clear origin in the events of his life. Now, an iconic of 20th century literature, Franz Kafka entered the world in unexceptional circumstances. His father was an ambitious and bullying shopkeeper, and his mother was a wealthy brewer's daughter who married beneath her social rank. He was their first child, born on July 3, 1883, into a middle class, German speaking Jewish family in Prague, the capital of Bohemia, a kingdom that was then part of the Austro Hungarian Empire. Kafka was born an outsider from the start. Prague's Jews were doubly outsiders because they spoke German, the official language of the Habsburg Empire, in a Swiss city, yet they were neither Germans nor Swiss. Moreover, as an assimilated non believer, Kafka was an outsider even in the Jewish community. Later in life, he would learn Hebrew and dream of going to Palestine. But he never fully accepted Judaism, and though he seemed to remain religious, his beliefs lay clearly outside uncharted tradition. Kafka's ambivalent take on authority, his ability to respect it, rebel against it, and blame himself for everything, seems to come mainly from his relationship with his father. Hermann Kafka, a self made storekeeper, had a Gigatian build and a brash character, opposed to Franz's smaller body and milder, highly intellectual personality. Though he was very energetic and, according to his friends, smooth and charming, Kafka never managed to emerge out of his father's shadow and escape his self hatred. Later in life, he undertook a variety of health regimen and diets in an attempt to boost his physique. Kafka has a sensitive disposition and slight appearance, much to his father's distaste. Moreover, Kafka's literary interest, he wrote plays for his sisters and read constantly, did not sit well with his father's practical mindset. Their relationship remained strained throughout Kafka's life, and his father's overbearing and an authoritarian personality left its mark on much of Kafka's writing, partly under his parents' influence and partly because he did not believe in making a profession out of writing. Kafka took a law degree and became a clerk for an accident insurance office. The office job provided Kafka with an income and some self confidence, and he was responsible for a number of policy changes that saved the lives of many workers. He continued writing in the evening while living with his parents and three sisters, learning to place himself in a writing trance to block out the noise. Much of Kafka's early writing is lost, but 1920 proved to be a breakthrough year for him as he wrote some of his most important stories, including The Judgment, The Metamorphosis, and much of his novel America. This was also the year when Kafka met Felice Buescher, to whom he was engaged and disengaged twice over the next 5 years in a storm of letters with extremely little physical interaction. His belief in the importance of marriage, coupled with the need to get away from his father's influence, was in perpetual conflict with its strong fear of matrimony. In the next year, Kafka traveled to Vienna and Venice and began a brief relationship with Grete Bloch, whose son by him that Kafka never knew about and who died while still a child. Soon after Kafka began work on the trial 1914, his most famous novel and though unfinished the only one with a written ending. Kafka moved to several apartments in the next few years to get away from the noise of his parents' home and to escape his father's influence, and he finally broke off his engagement to Felice Bros as well. Around the time he began coughing blood and was diagnosed with tuberculosis. To get away from everything and recover from his sickness, Kafka moved out to his sister Otla's farm away from Prague. He dreamed aimlessly of becoming a potato farmer or of moving to Palestine, but soon returned to Prague, freed partly from his father's influence. Kafka wrote the letter to his father, 1919, carefully cataloguing every aspect of his being of their relationship. The letter is a masterpiece, shedding light on every novel and story he had written in which a protagonist struggled with a superior power. The letter which he began to his mother to pass on never reached its addressee. Kafka's another important relationship by letter, this time with Melina Jensenka, ended with 2 years despite Kafka's apparent love. It was then the Kafka wrote The Castle, 1922, now recasting power in the form of benign indifference as well as a story. The Hunger Artist, a brilliant exposition of the artist's drive. But this was also the year that, after a year of time spent in sanatorium on medical leave, Kafka finally had to leave his job at the insurance office as a result of his illness. Soon feeling healthier, he met Dora Diamond and actually moved to Berlin with her. For the first time in his life, living with a woman he wasn't related to and finding his independence. But their dreams of moving to Tel Aviv together were covered over by the black cloud of fluidity, and Kafka's tuberculosis grew worse, forcing him to return to Prague for treatment. Stripped of his new love and freedom, he died in 1924. Never famous in his own lifetime, Kafka did have an audience of admirers within a small circle of German reading intellectuals. Many of his stories were published during his lifetime, but many were not. His three novels, all unfinished, were left in Desare among his manuscript, with chapters out of order and titles missing. Their rough, unfinished quality seems only to add to the stunning nervous confusion of his style. Kafka had famously asked his long life friend, Max Brod, to burn most of this manuscript after his death, and Brod equally famously ignored the request and set out to edit the incredible collection of publication. Over the course of 1920s and 30s, Kafka's works were published and translated, instantly becoming landmark of 20th century literature. His emphasis on the absurdity of existence, the alienating experience of modern life, and the cruelty and incomprehensibility of authoritarian power were berated strongly with a reading public that had just survived World War One and was on its way to a Second World War. Today, people use word Kafkaesque to signify senseless and sinister complexity, and Kafka's reputation as one of the most important writers of modern time is undiminished.